Hello there, and welcome to this tutorial slash demonstration. Today we're going to be taking a look at radio navigation and ILS in the NAMC YS-11 by Inibuilds for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we are currently over the region of Mine in Japan. All we know is that we have spawned in somewhere here. We're at around 5,000 something feet of altitude. I've paused the simulator here, and all we know is that we're somewhere here. All right, we're somewhere right here over the region of Mine. Now we've put the weather to medium visibility, and as you can tell, there is very little for us to be able to discern outside the aircraft. Very little visibility in all directions. That is good for today's little tutorial here. So we are all set up and prepared for landing, apart from the flaps and gear, which we'll do on final. Apart from that, we're pretty much getting ready to set ourselves up for landing into Kitakyushu today, right here. Okay, the airport right here. So today's objective is from around this area in Mine where we are, we want to fly down towards Yamaguchi Ube Airport, and we're going to do that using the Ube VOR. We're going to tune ourselves to the Ube. Is it Ube or Ube? I don't know. Anyway, Ube VOR, we're going to tune ourselves to it, and we're going to fly directly to Ube. From Ube VOR, we are supposed to take the 298-degree radial from Ube. So we are going to fly directly to Ube, fly out of Ube using the 298-degree radial, and we're supposed to continue flying from Ube till we're about 15 nautical miles away from that VOR. When we're about 15 nautical miles away from that VOR along 298 degrees radial, we will arrive at this particular point here. Now that particular point is supposed to be 10 or so nautical miles away from Kitakyushu. It's supposed to be about 10 nautical miles away from the foot of the runway here in Kitakyushu. So once we reach around this point, we are supposed to now tune in the ILS frequency and put the OBS to the ILS course, which is 178 degrees, and that should take us directly in towards the runway. Then we're going to tune into the localizer. We're also going to tune into the glide slope, and hopefully that takes us directly to the foot of the runway, where we will be able to see it just in time to perform a landing. So that is today's exercise. All right, so since I have the simulator here in pause, and for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and tune in some frequencies in advance. So first thing we're going to tune in is nav radio 1. We want to tune in the Ube VOR frequency, which is 110.80. So let's put that in here, 110.80, which is supposed to tune in at 800 here. So you'll have 800 like this. Now if you look at our OBS and CDI here, we've got a signal from that VOR, and if you look at the needle here, it's telling us that it's behind us in this direction. So that is where the VOR is. It's somewhere in this direction is where the VOR is. If we draw such a line like that, we are somewhere here to the left of where the text says Mine. From this needle here, we can tell we are somewhere there, most likely, right? Given that we're flying in this direction. All right, so we've got a direction towards it, and we are going to fly directly towards Ube by pressing the track and making sure that here on the CDI we have VLOC enabled. Now, but before we do that, let's tune in the same frequency one more time on nav radio 2. And the reason for that is, once we reach the once we reach the Ube VOR, my bad, we need to be able to measure the distance from that VOR as we fly away from it. So to do that, we're going to use DME2 here. So notice how DME 1 and 2 both show the same exact distance right now, because they're both tuned into Ube VOR. right? But as soon as we pass Ube VOR, we're going to use DME2 or nav radio 2 here to monitor our distance away from the VOR. Okay, so we can know when we are 50 nautical miles away once again. All right. Now, another thing I want to do in advance before we start our flight here, before we press continue here, is we're going to tune in the heading of the radial that we want to fly out of from Ube VOR, which is 298 degrees, just so we're prepared. So 298 degrees is roughly around 300. I'm going to go ahead and tune that in. Okay, so somewhere there is where we're supposed to be, right? If we take a look at it, let's have a look. Yeah, so we're supposed to be around 300. 290 is there, and that's around 298 as far as we're concerned. Yeah, there we go. That should be right. 270, 280, 290, 295, 298 is somewhere there. Perfect. So the reason we have this tuned in advance is as soon as we are about a nautical mile or so, or 0 nautical miles away from Ube, or over Ube, basically, we want to press the heading button here and begin that turn like this towards that radial, and we want to follow that radial as quickly as possible. And then 15 nautical miles from this VOR, or 10 nautical miles from the ILS, foot of the runway, more or less, we want to begin our turn. Okay, so just to be prepared, that's why we've got 298 tuned in on our heading there. Perfect. So having done all of this, we are now ready to unpause. Okay, we can turn off, if we like, we can turn off this nav radio for the time being if we like, because we're not using it. And once we cross the Ube VOR, we'll also be tuning in the ILS frequency here, right? We'll be doing that as well. Okay, so I hope all that is clear. Given all that information, let's go ahead and continue flying, except this time we're going to go directly towards Ube VOR first. So we are somewhere here, we're going to fly directly, somewhere here we're going to fly directly to Ube VOR. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how that goes. Okay, before I unpause, one more tiny little detail there. We can see which direction it's supposed to be in. Let's set our OBS in such a way that we fly effectively directly to Ube, and that is around 160, 170, yeah, somewhere there. So that will take us directly to Ube apparently. So, okay, so let's go ahead and fly now. Remember, once we cross Ube, we're going to change this OBS to the ILS course of 178, so we can intercept the correct track or the correct course that's going to lead us straight into runway 18 in Kitakyushu. So it will make more sense as we get flying here. All right, given all of that in, let's go ahead and unpause the simulator now. Let's make sure the aircraft is behaving as required. Okay, we're at 5,000 feet, 5,200 feet. That's fine. Let's press the track button. And there we go. Our aircraft has begun making its turn towards Ube VOR here. Okay, that seems to be working at the moment. So somewhere we are 16 nautical miles and turning towards Ube. That is currently what the information is telling us. 70 nautical miles now. Okay, let's see. Let's see how it goes. As you can tell, we cannot see anything out the windows, so we can't cheat. So, all right, we've got medium visibility set as the preset, so we can't really see anything really. Our speed is looking okay. Please do ignore any mistakes in setup across the flight if I'm not properly configured for landing on this one, because I want to focus on the radio navigation aspect of it. So we'll try not to make too many mistakes nonetheless. Anyway, here we are turning in towards Ube at the moment. And let me just adjust this course so that we don't have to be... Okay, at this point we are pretty much parallel. We're trying to capture a course that's parallel to this ILS right here. So we're trying to capture a course that's pretty much parallel to the localizer for the runway, so which means we'll probably fly into Ube this way. Okay, so that's what it's showing us. We are trying to capture the 178-degree radial flying towards Ube. So let's watch as our aircraft does that. And in that way, we're going to fly parallel to this particular course here. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Oh, we're overspeeding a little bit there, I believe. Don't want to be that fast. Slow us down a little bit there. Okay. There we go. We're coming up on the course. Coming up on that radial right there. We should make a slight left turn more or less to capture that soon. 12 nautical miles away from Ube at the moment. Okay. Good. Still holding that 5,200, 5,150 foot altitude here. I'm going to leave it there for today. We want to be around 3,000 feet here. Around 10 nautical miles away from the foot of the runway at Kitakyushu. We want to be around 3,000 feet. So we need to descend as we fly from Ube to that point. So we'll do that. There we go. We're pretty much established directly towards Ube on 178 radial, 178 degree radial. That means we are pretty much currently flying parallel this way to the runway. Excellent. 9 nautical miles now. Okay, our fuel trim can be increased slightly. There we go. Transponder is on for landing. Altitude repeating on. Radar can remain on. Altitude reporting. Sorry, my bad. Remember, I messed that up. Okay. So we've got everything else looking good. Let's go up here. Check this out. Inspection light is on. Landing light. Let's slow down a little bit more before we do that. Relight is on. Boost pumps are on. We've got some sort of heating and pitot heats going. Let's turn on all the lights there. That's all looking good. All right. So apart from the landing lights, we're pretty much ready for takeoff, excluding the flaps and gear, of course. We'll do that after we make the turn into the ILS. Okay, just 5 nautical miles away and we're well established on the 178 radial. So if we draw a line here from Ube, oh, sorry, I did not mean to do that. Can I undo that? No, I can't undo that. Okay, let me redraw that radial here. Yeah, something like this, right? Yeah, it is something like this. I'm going to leave it here. Okay. So if we draw another line from Ube going this way, 3 nautical miles away, we'll be able to actually find our position, which I'm not going to do. We're just going to continue flying here. We know we're somewhere here, right? 3 nautical miles away, 178 degree radial. So we're coming in like this towards Ube, just 2 nautical miles now. When we just have 1 nautical mile, or rather right under 1 nautical mile, I'm going to make that turn. And how am I going to make that turn? I'm going to activate the heading button here. There we go, 1 nautical mile, under 1 nautical mile now. I'm going to press the heading button here. And when I do, we're going to start turning towards that heading we tuned in, which is 298. And that should take us on the radial 298 degrees out of Ube VOR. So we should begin flying along this line momentarily. Okay, now we can see that we've passed Ube. The needle is now telling us that Ube is behind us. More or less, it's behind us as we continue to turn. And look at that, the distance from Ube VOR is increasing now. Now what we can do is we can turn on Nav Radio 2, which is also tuned to Ube VOR here. And it will give us the distance from Ube VOR. Since we have that available on DME2 now, let's go ahead and tune the ILS here in Nav Radio 1. Frequency for ILS is 109.15. Let's go ahead and do that. 0.15 right here. And look at that. we've got a signal. Okay, we've got a signal. This one is Ube. This one is the ILS we're flying to. And as you can tell, currently, since we're flying along this line, oh, we need to begin descending. Forgot about that. Let's do that quickly. Let's begin descending here. Let's slow down our aircraft. Okay, we are 9 nautical miles away from basically the ILS. So when it says we're 9 nautical miles away, it's talking about the foot of the runway. All right, it's talking about the foot of the runway. We are 9 nautical miles away from the localizer. 8 nautical miles away now, so we're flying along this and we're getting further from Ube. Okay, and the course that we're supposed to follow, this 178 degree course towards runway, is right in front of us in this orientation here. So we'll capture that sooner or later. Sorry. Let me continue our descent here because we have to be at 3,000 feet to be effectively capturing the glide slope. So let's continue descending here. Remember, we have to be 15 nautical miles from Ube, 10 nautical miles from the foot of the runway. This is the distance from the foot of the runway. This is the distance from Ube. We are in the halfway point, which should be somewhere here. Continuing to fly here. Let's reduce our speed further. We need to prepare for landing, don't we? So let me go ahead and put our fuel trim to max. Lots to do here. Have we descended? Okay, around 200 knots. Come on. Reduce a bit more in speed there. Going to open up the landing lights there. Looking good. Hope the inspection lights are on. Yes, they are. Okay, we are continuing our journey here. Remember, this should continue to be in VLOC mode for us to be able to use the ILS. 10 nautical miles away from Ube now. Okay, so I hope you guys are able to see that clearly. 10 nautical miles away from Ube. And 7 nautical miles away from the foot of the runway. So we're somewhere here. Let's continue our journey. 3,000 foot coming up, 3,200 now. 3,100 coming up. Okay, we can actually put our flaps down. To position number 10, 3,000 foot. Let's press the altitude button. Make sure we hold the altitude around 2,900. That's fine. It's fine for us. Okay, 13 nautical miles away from Ube now. Flying along here quite well. Brilliant. We're still, the course for the ILS is still ahead of us, so we're okay. As we fly closer to it, this should, okay, look at that. We need to turn now. Let's press the track button there. And let's press the localizer button as well, just like this. Keep both the track and localizer on. So as you saw, the needle is now behind us, which means we've just crossed this path actually. We've just crossed across the localizer, which we don't want. However, we have asked the aircraft to turn now towards the ILS. So we should be okay. All right, look at that. We have come off to the right of the localizer path there. We've come to the right, so we are making that turn, but we overshot. So we came in like this, we overshot it, we're coming back in towards the course. That's what's happening right now. Okay? Looking good, slowing down well. Let's put our flaps down again. Let's put our flaps down one more. Let's give it a bit more of power here. There we go. We're going to catch this course. We have 178 tuned in. We'll be at the ILS in no time. Localizer has somehow been caught at the moment. So make sure that you have the track and localizer on when you're trying to capture the ILS, because the track mode will catch just the localizer signal and the localizer will catch the glide slope. So you need both these buttons pressed in if you're trying to tune into the ILS. Obviously also make sure that it says VLOC here instead of GPS by pressing the CDI button. Okay, we're continuing our descent, and we're only 5 nautical miles away from the foot of the runway, but we haven't caught the appropriate course yet. Okay, We no longer need to refer to the second DME because that's from the UBE VOR, which we don't really need to worry about anymore. So let's just turn that off to avoid any confusion. 3 nautical miles away, as you can tell, we're coming in line with the localizer, which is brilliant. We need to put our flaps down. We need to slow our aircraft down as well considerably. Let's drop the gear here. There we go, gear down as well. A little late for all of that. Let's put this away now, we don't need it. There we go, flap set for landing. Minimums, we'll set it at 150. We don't want to go any lower than that without seeing the runway. Hopefully we'll be able to see it before that. Let's see. Let's set it at 150. Okay, our speed is dropping a little bit. We gotta give it a bit of throttle here. Let me do that before it's too late. There we go. 150 set. There we go. We are perfectly in line with the localizer. We are descending according to the glide slope apparently. We should be. I hope we are. But oh, there is the runway. There we go. We have the runway in sight. At least we have the runway lights in sight. We're coming in a little high, but that's okay. All right, so let me go ahead and take manual control here, my aircraft, and we're going to fly this in now. We're coming in a little high there, but that's okay. Cut the throttle. There we go. There we go. We're down. We are down. Okay. So we went a little off course there, right? Because we're a little late for our tuning and whatnot. But there we go. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how the parking brake got engaged, but it did. Anyway. So we were a little late to tune in, configure ourselves for landing there. And that kind of threw us off the glide slope there a little bit. But apart from that, we have managed to successfully land into Kitakyushu with very poor visibility using just our radio instruments. Okay, I wish that went a little bit better. It would have had I not left all the landing configurations for the last second there. However, I hope you guys found that useful. Using this exact principle, you'll be able to land into other airports and other runways using just your radio instruments without the need for GPS. The same principle also applies to every other aircraft with a similar set of instruments. All right. If you guys would like me to perform other tutorials using radio navigation in other aircraft, please let me know down there in the comment section. With that, hope you guys found that useful, and I shall catch you guys in the next tutorial, demonstration video, live stream, whichever it is. Thank you once again for watching, and have a good day.